Are you familiar with the new law that was just passed? Went through Congress, the House. Yes, in fact, a new kill switch to be installed in every single 2026 and newer vehicle. A lot of it was justified by law enforcement and government officials by the sake that they're trying to minimize drunk drivers. Drunk drivers were to be monitored passively by watching their eyes, the vehicle's movement, the response of the driver, excess speeding, and all of the sensors on board of these vehicles were to be monitored and identified for drunk drivers. But it's an open system, and what they're not entirely telling you is that any third-party operator can get into it. Whether it's the government, whether it's law enforcement, insurance companies. And we all know insurance companies aren't looking for too many reasons to crank up your rates, as we've seen in recent years. This new law snuck in under a $1.2 trillion infrastructure bill and is designed to actually lock out your vehicle in the event of not agreeing to the type of driving behavior that you are participating in. The question's begged, how far is too far, where Big Brother, the government, insurance companies, law enforcement have above you and your personal rights? The Fourth Amendment. We already see in the United Kingdom where drivers found excessively speeding were to be triggered. They get all these active alarms leading up to that point, and after 3 strikes, you're out. You lose your license indefinitely. And while nobody would agree that excessive speeding is necessary, but it's really not about the speeding aspect, although can those types of laws be added or integrated in this new infrastructure bill that we're finding here that was just passed with the lockout devices? Now, officials are claiming this is to be entirely supported by preventing drunk drivers, but we all know with an open system like this invites all sort of unwanted privacy challenges where hackers can even get in the back door, insurance companies, and it begs the question, is there more to this conversation? What happened during the pandemic? Does this possibly pose a question if we have another national emergency such as that when everybody was asked to lock down? Could this be integrated into the vehicles? Could this be forced to keep you at home? This also opens a conversation about CDK. We heard about CDK recently, the software where dealers across the industry utilize them for their service, sales, and all of their other business tactics. In the meantime, CDK was hacked by a third party out in Eastern Europe, allegedly, who held the entire program at ransom. Could hackers with ill intentions be those very people that can hack into these cars now because it's an open system that with the right access and the right amount of hacking could allow some very unwanted guests to come in the back door and make changes to your car's behavior? Again, the rationale is to prevent drunk drivers when clearly they're not suitable for driving, and nobody would ever justify that that's great behavior. As a matter of fact, it leads to many deaths and bad serious injuries every single year across North America as well as the globe. It's bad behavior and certainly needs to be curtailed in one aspect or another. But should it be done at the rights of all of the innocent drivers out there who are just trying to use their vehicle from A to B? Now, there have been some government officials who've tried to offer amendments to this change and ultimately to defund this kill switch mandate. But unanimously, this bill continued on and the amendments failed miserably. Now, we should understand this a little more depth, and how does this actually written in the Constitution and the laws? Let's break this down. I'm going to pull this up and share some of these details. Now, under Section 224.220, under Advanced Impaired Driving Technology, subsection 1 states that alcohol-impaired driving fatalities represent approximately 1/3 of all highway fatalities in the United States each year. Subsection 3 also indicates the estimated economic cost for alcohol-impaired driving in 2010 was approximately $44 billion. Subsection 4 indicates, according to the Insurance Institute of Highway Safety, advanced drunk and impaired driving prevention technology can prevent more than 9,400 alcohol-impaired driving fatalities annually. And subsection 5 states, to ensure the prevention of alcohol-impaired driving fatalities, advanced drunk and impaired driving prevention technology must be standard equipment in all new passenger vehicles. And further to the act, the technology can passively monitor the performance of a driver of a motor vehicle to accurately identify whether the driver may be impaired and prevent or limit motor vehicle operation if an impairment is detected. So clearly there's a strong push to lock down your car if it detects, based on an algorithm and some software and sensors, whether that driver is capable. We already know a lot of these programs, software, up in your vehicle is already designed to listen to conversations in your vehicle. Have you ever heard of your phone? Everybody says, and it's not a conspiracy theory. You to say one thing with your phone switched off, you go and turn your phone on, and lo and behold, some ad comes up for something you just spoke of and you never searched for it. Clearly, your vehicle is programmed in much the same way. There will be algorithms listening to you, watching you, and reacting to your very driving behaviors. And many people feel this technology is too far down the road, and there's no way that the government can actually implement that. Well, let's think about that again. We know we have Wi-Fi in vehicles. We know of the Skynet, so to speak, and vehicles have the Wi-Fi and all sorts of technologically advanced capabilities on board. But a lot of similar systems have been integrated as well in modern day vehicles like OnStar by GM. This is nothing new. It's been around for years already. So this is a small adjustment or a small enhancement to many current manufacturers that are already using some of this type of technology on board. At the flick of a switch, you can literally talk to 911 or some other level of operator in case you're in trouble or in a world of hurt. Now, while there's clearly some benefits, it's nice to know that some of your older relatives, possibly your kids, are within an arm's reach of poor driving technology or safety challenges that in a lot of ways that some people can be protected. We also notice that there are some benefits like aggressive high-speed law enforcement chases because of some drunk driver that decides to get heavy on it and wants to try to lose the cops. The cops don't have to chase that person too far and let the vehicle shut itself off. So clearly there's some strong benefits, but unfortunately this challenges the rights of you and I as a driver. Now, what about some of these drivers out there? I know a lot of you watch the channel about driving some of the older vehicles, less technology, simpler vehicles. Yes, in fact, there are benefits to driving some of these older vehicles. Will some of those be force mandated to be retrofitted? Possibly with time. It looks like there are some clauses in there related to possibly 2 years retroactively. However, you go old enough back and there's many cars that simply just won't be integrated. And that's a big reason why a lot of people hate the idea of this transition to new vehicles, Teslas, electric vehicles that are also digitized and electronic, that no longer is the driver driving the vehicle, that the vehicle is driving the driver. And this is a further extension of the technology that controls you. We know we're being tracked. We know there's cameras everywhere in the streets, drones, satellites. Even the very water usage that you use or power usage is metered through your meters in your home and translated upstream. Everybody knows what you're doing and Big Brother's constantly watching. As a matter of fact, the EPAs and their employees are being monitored for energy consumption and water consumption as well, currently and actively. We also notice if you work for a lot of larger corporations that use fleet vehicles, there's GPS monitored equipment within those fleet vehicles. Tells you how quick you're turning, tells you if you're braking too hard, accelerating too hard, whether you're driving erratically, and it reports back to a centralized system, which then the supervisor can either slice you, dice you, fire you, or have a good stern talking to. So think about tomorrow's bureaucratic mindset in charge of smart city operations and infrastructure, or ponder the central bank digital currencies and debanking, deplatforming capabilities they afford in, for example, a nation requiring that $600 transactions be reported to the IRS by online marketplaces and apps. And we also notice that when you walk into the bank and you have, say, a little bit of cash, maybe you sold a couple of widgets at home and you have, say, $3,000 cash and you just want to put it into the bank, you literally get grilled because the bank wants to know your every bit of business and they will ask you to the top to the bottom, where did you get that cash from and why are you depositing this? What's going on? This is nothing new, and every angle from your finances to your energy consumption, fuel consumption, the way you're driving, the way you're walking and talking, the way you're utilizing the internet is all being monitored very passively. You may not know instantaneously, but every one of these could have an impact on your future, just like installing some of this software and monitoring systems in your car. So currently, these laws are set to take place as of 2026. Of the next run of vehicles to come out, you will likely buy a vehicle that is fully set up and enabled to be monitoring your very behaviors of driving. How hard you accelerate, watching your eye movement, watch the behavior of the vehicle could all be indications as to whether you are impaired or not. But let's not forget all these other components like we're seeing in current fleet vehicles. You may also be monitored for erratic driving, speeding, hard acceleration, hard braking, hard cornering? And where are the limits of people monitoring this? Your insurance company automatically hikes your rates because they see a certain driving behavior. Law enforcement may see you at your doors and say, hey, we saw you driving like this. Government officials and even the IRS may have their fingers in this pie as well. Then one begs the question, how reliable are these systems? If it's using all these sensors to detect your driving behavior, whether you're capable of driving. I mean, we talk about hackers that have the ability to possibly get in there like CDK, make adjustments. You could be driving down the highway doing 80 miles per hour and all of a sudden somebody shuts off your vehicle. What's going to happen? Are you going to be put into a very dangerous situation? We also notice that because there's an algorithm, there's software, and we know software and computers have glitches. We know sensors have glitches. Look at the modern day vehicles with all the sensors and they fail regularly. So what if a sensor fails or a software fails and it literally shuts you down for no real reason or inadvertently shuts you off at the most inopportune time, like crossing through a busy intersection, doing a left-hand turn could be an absolute drastic scenario. The more technology you introduce to a vehicle, not only does it introduce more control, but also more potential for failure. So clearly there's some positives, some negatives, but there's certainly many drawbacks on the Fourth Amendment and the challenges it poses there. We also can't forget about the cost that will be introduced into the installation of these vehicles. You've got to believe that manufacturers will not absorb these costs, and you as the buyer will now introduce to another layer of cost add-ons to the sale of a lot of these new vehicles. As you go down, spend your hard-earned dollars on these vehicles, which are becoming almost cost prohibitive to buy in the first place, and many buyers are finding it very difficult to even afford new vehicles these days. Here we have manufacturers that will be forced and mandated to install very expensive new technology into these vehicles, thus adding another $1,000 to $5,000 to the price of this vehicle as a baseline. So the benefits and the drawbacks become very, very clear. As it stands, there's no current way to stop this momentum. The bills have been passed, the laws are in place, and in 2026, buying a new vehicle will likely have this new technology in there. The only way around this is engage your government officials, and all we have is to defund that legislation, which may have a slim possibility of removing it from this updated law. Is there any more justification to going some of the older vehicles? And the new vehicles with all their technology are wonderful until it doesn't work for you. I'd love to hear your comments. Do you have any thoughts on this, any opinions? I know that it's going to be certainly controversial. I'd love to hear it. Please drop a line. Hope to see each and every one of you on the next one. We'll see you real soon. Bye-bye.